Okay, so today you're going to work on your second landmark, which is page 29. And so you're going to do the same thing. You guys did an excellent job finding a picture. A couple of you had a couple pictures, and answering that. You must have listened to the directions. So again, just do that same thing again. Give good answers, not just quick answers, not just what you think at the top of your head. I'm looking for real answers that when somebody looks through it, oh wow, that's somewhere I would like to visit. I saw somebody had the Royal Gorge. I've never been to the Royal Gorge before. I thought that was interesting. So I really liked looking at that picture. All right, let's go over our map. All right, here we go. We have our cities we'll do first. We have Fort Collins, Boulder, Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Durango, Glenwood Springs, Grand Junction. Okay, our rivers, we have the Arkansas River, Rio Grande River, Colorado River, South Platte River. Okay, our boundaries, we have Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, Wyoming. Our interstates, which one goes north and south? Interstate 25. Which one goes east and west? Interstate 70 through the mountains. By the way, if right out when you go outside of Denver and you're on I-70 going west towards Utah, there are, if you look closely, there are some buffalo on the side of that highway. There's a special area, there is a sign. So if you ever are heading that way towards Grand Junction, west, okay, you look for those buffalo. I see them often when I go by. Okay, let's see. We have, our national parks. Up here we have Rocky Mountain National Park. Down here by Colorado Springs, Great Sand Dunes National Park. Over here outside of Durango, Mesa Verde National Park. Up here, Dinosaur National Monument. And right about here, outside of Gunnison, Gunnison National Park. That's not what it's called. Black Canyon of the Gunnison. Got caught off guard by talking about Gunnison first. Okay, let's see if there's anything else we should know. Do you know your directions? Okay, so this direction is south. That direction is southeast. That direction is east. That direction is northeast. That direction is north. That direction is west. This direction is southwest. Do you remember what we call this area right here where these four states meet? Do you remember? Four corners. Okay. All right. What I'd like you to do now is I want you to find your yellow book. So not this book. I want you to find your yellow book, and I want you to open it up, and at the very top, not this book, but at the very top of that book, you will find where it says lesson, and then it has a number. I want you to read lesson 8, and then the next page, read lesson 9. So you're going to do that right now. Don't fly through it. I'm not waiting for you. You're going to pause the video right now, and you're going to find your yellow book and read lesson 8 and lesson 9, and then you'll come back on. Okay, so you can pause right now. All right, I hope you read lesson 8 and 9. Let's see if you can find page 21 in your My State Notebook. Today we're going to talk about an early settlement. My State Notebook, page 21. I don't want you to write anything yet. I want you to listen, and you're going to write something later. Okay, I think if I remember, the last thing I'll do is I'll hold up some information so you can get some spellings. There's a date on there. So you're just going to listen right now, but you should be open to page 21 so that you kind of know, you can remember later, oh yeah, that page. Oh yes, it looks like this. It was the early settlement page. And you can find this page again when you go back and do it. Okay? All right. Have you ever heard of the town of Greeley? Okay, we're going to read about Greeley as our early settlement, but before it became known as Greeley, it has a little bit of history, and it was known as Union Colony. So I'm going to show you that as Union Colony, which is now called Greeley. And by the way, check out how you spell Greeley with 3 E's. Okay, let me read to you a little bit about the history of the finding of this early settlement. While traveling in Colorado in 1871, fellow train passengers warned author Grace Greenwood not to stop in Greeley. You'll die of dullness in less than 5 hours. There's nothing there but irrigation. Your host will invite you out to see him irrigate his potato patch. Your hostess will excuse herself to go out and irrigate her pinks and dahlias. Those are flowers. Every young one has a ditch of his own to manage. There is not a saloon in the whole camp, nor a drink of whiskey to be had. The place is humbug. Its morality and Greeleyisms will bust it up someday. Well, Spunky Greenwood took her chances on Greeley, praising the character of its citizens and their progress in transforming the great American desert into a Garden of Eden. Do you know what an irrigation ditch is? Maybe you've seen them. I know Caden is going to say yes. I know Danielle is going to say yes for sure. Okay, both of them live on farms or close to a farm. And so maybe you've seen an irrigation ditch where you look out into a field and they're growing a crop, and you can see that there's like some ditches, and maybe you've even seen it in action. I have a field not very far from me where I've seen them filling the water. So you fill it with water and then it goes down the rows of corn or the rows of barley, whatever they're growing out there. And they use those irrigation ditches to water their crops a lot of times. Okay, so that's what irrigation ditches are. And we know that in Colorado we live in a very dry state, so we need water. And not, in Florida, it rains all the time. In Connecticut, it rains a lot. There's a lot of states that are very moist, but you wouldn't say that about Colorado. We're a very dry place. And you can tell because they call it the Great American Desert. But because of those irrigation ditches, they started putting that water out in those fields, and they started growing all these lush vegetables and plants. It turned into a Garden of Eden. And when you think of the Garden of Eden, you think of green and jungly and lots of plants and beautiful. All right, let's talk a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, so in 1869, Greeley, well, let's see. Let me start back about Horace Greeley. So it says here, the Union Colony of Colorado was formed to promote agricultural settlements in the South Platte River Valley in the Colorado Territory. Organization of the colony began in 1869 by Nathan Meeker. Here he is. His job was to establish a religiously oriented utopian community of high moral standards. Now, utopian means like a perfect community. Okay, high moral standards, that means those people were upright. And we're going to talk about what the characteristics, what the people had to have in order to even go out here and live. Okay, the colony was founded in March of 1870 at the present site of what is now known as Greeley. So remember, we're talking about, it's first called Union Colony. So if you ever go out to Greeley, you'll see reference to Union Colony. So they have a place where you can see plays and things and different shows, and it's called Union Colony Theaters, something like that. Okay, so let's see. Union Colony was financially backed and promoted by the New York Tribune editor Horace Greeley. Now, financially backed and promoted, that means that this guy right here had a lot of money. And he was willing to put out a lot of money and organize the trips to go check out this area. And he was going to organize the ad that was going to be put in the newspaper. He wanted people to go out and make this utopian, this perfect community. And so he is the one that had all the money. Okay, this is Horace Greeley, by the way. Sound familiar? Okay, so we now know that the town of Greeley was named after this guy. All right. So Horace Greeley, he was an advocate of the settlement of the American West. Now, an advocate means a pusher. Like, he's like, I want people to go out there. So an advocate is somebody that wants something to happen. So he was a big person, that a wealthy person that wanted people to go out and settle the American West. And he had the money to provide to make these things happen. The homesteaded colony greatly advanced irrigation, we talked about that, usage in the present-day northern Colorado. Now, Horace Greeley had journeyed west in 1859 during the Colorado Gold Rush. He was going from Denver to Fort Laramie, and he went over the overland stage line. Remember we talked about that? Before continuing on to California. So he kind of was in this area, but then he went off onto California to visit Danielle. Let's see. Greeley's route took him up the valleys of the South Platte and the Cache la Poudre rivers. The Cache la Poudre River we haven't talked about yet, but that's the river, the Poudre River, that goes right through Fort Collins. So if you ever go around on our bike trails, that's where you would see the Cache la Poudre. Okay, in 1869, Greeley sent Meeker, so here's Meeker again. He was employed, by the way, he was the editor of the Tribune. He sent him to the Colorado Territory to seek out a location for a colony to promote the settlement of the West. Meeker returned to New York in 1869 with a report saying it's a great place for a colony. And that's where we'll pause today. Okay? So tomorrow we'll talk more about what it took for these people to be able to go and live in this perfect colony, this utopian colony. All right.